Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at the VKS for an internal exam. We're going to be talking about regulators as well as your air chamber and your firing bolt, as well as a little bit about the ASA. So stay tuned. Got the VKS taken apart here. I didn't want to show you all of the breakdown. I think there are numerous other videos showing how to take this apart and how to take care of the maintenance and the cleaning. I'm going to try to focus on specific areas. The one thing that I immediately wanted to check based on my prior video with the TCP was I wanted to check my firing bolt, and I wanted to check the pin, and you can see the pin here. And surprisingly, another surprise, what I find is this one is very tight. Quite a few shots above 50 joules, quite a few shots above 40 joules. And this one is rock solid. I haven't noticed any it won't turn either way, and I don't see any need to try to take it out if it's in very tight. So that's a head scratcher, because my TCP, which was bought, this was bought a year ago. My TCP was bought a year and a half ago. This one is fine, the bolt is fine, and it's shot at much higher FPS across every shot, never really below 30 joules, mostly 35 and up, and this bolt is fine. And I'll keep checking it, and we'll see how it continues to hold up. But maybe I got lucky and this one was Loctited correctly at the factory. So that was what I was thinking. Regarding the VKS. I think they built these with the intention that they're going to be fired at a higher FPS than the TCP, and so I was surprised that they would not Loctite these, but it looks like they did on mine. And the TCP, which I really didn't expect there to be any problems, is the one that you saw in the previous video. So you always learn something new when you work on these, and so there's always something that you need to be thinking about in terms of maintenance. I just learned something new from a number of guys, and they finally, Joules made a nice video showing how to get this thing to run smoothly. And I'm not doing that today, but I think that's a great modification, because this thing, it gets annoying. It's not that you can't turn it on, and I know that during an emergency situation, I would not have a problem pushing this thing on with the adrenaline, but you don't want your ASA on off to not slide well. And I'm going to open up this set screw, and I'm going to do the polishing and all the mods that he recently described. And again, acknowledge Sean Kempter, who really is a genius with these things, and I've talked to him numerous times about various things, and he just has an encyclopedia of knowledge about these air guns. And so I'm going to try that in the future, but mine, just like everybody else's, gets stiff. It seems to be better when I've lubed it initially, and it'll work for a few mags, and then it gets tighter and tighter. There is one comparison that I think I would like to make, and if you remember this spare FSC bolt and firing chamber that I have from the prior video, let's take a look at the air chamber between the FSC and the VKS, which is also basically the same as the TCP. So you can see here, this is the VKS air chamber. I'll try to hold it as close as I can. And this is the TCP or FSC air chamber. So we put them up side by side. So you can see that the air chamber is significantly larger. So you got that extra air capacity. So that's really one of the main reasons for the VKS having more power. Now this part where the bolt sleeve, the bolt goes on, is very similar. I see a slight difference. There is try to get it here. Looks like it's slightly longer on the VKS. So I know that I've heard that but the bolts are exactly the same between the TCP and FSC. So let's see how they compare for the VKS. So this is the firing bolt for a just generic TCP or FSC, and this is the firing bolt for the VKS. And the only difference, there's not a difference in length, but there's a difference in the style at the top here. If you can tell, there's a difference in how it's graded. But otherwise, they look very similar. But there's a subtle difference there. And I don't know the significance of that. The length is the same. Other channels like Daniel Spencer have shown that you can put this on here. I haven't tried it. I haven't needed to try it, but it fires. So if you ever have a problem with your VKS bolt, these will work, although I haven't tried it, but go check out his videos. So these are all things that you can consider as you work on and learn how to manage your VKS. These have a lot of details that you need to learn, and there are things that work and there are things that don't work, and these were all determined by trial and error. To keep this less lethal community growing, subscribe to those channels and follow what they're talking about, because there's a lot of really interesting information. I thought I would show you the VKS regulator just to be thorough, and since I showed you on the TCP, for comparison, you can see here there are two holes for two different screws. That's one of the only differences that I see between the two, other than the upgrades that I've described before, which include this sear spring, which you see is a very shiny, strong spring. And otherwise, it has good springs everywhere else, and it's basically the same. There are some subtleties related to the trigger and how that works differently from the TCP, but the basic regulator is the same. But the one thing that you might notice, and on a future video I'll be opening this up, as I alluded to in the TCP video, but you can tell that this is solid on the inside. There is no pressure relief valve. It is not just deleted. It was never there to begin with. It's just a solid brass plug, and that's one striking difference that you get between these two. So you don't have to do a PRV delete when you buy this. You don't have to upgrade these springs. They're already really robust, and this regulator right out of the box is ready to go at high power. And I haven't had any troubles with my regulator on the VKS so far. Another thing I want to show you is the barrel, and this barrel is very much identical to the TCP barrel. It has the same detent system where it's indented and the metal detent slides in. It's a rifle barrel. I think you can probably see the rifling here, just like in the TCP. And it looks exactly like a TCP barrel. It's just longer. On the end, it does have the grooves for changing the tip, but it's pretty shallow, and you can see here that there's only a few grooves to catch. It works really well with the tip that comes with the VKS barrel, but if you use an aftermarket one like this that I'm using, the Dishka Thunder Tip, the grooves here don't get fully engaged, so it goes on, but it's pretty shallow, and I find that it will back off after, if you're shooting a lot, it'll start to get loose and it could fall off. And I saw the video from Mikey, and he was talking about this, Mikey from Canada Riot Balls, and I think that's a very good point. I haven't had mine come off yet, but every time that I shoot and I grab the weapon and I want to do some shooting, I just by nature just tighten it with my hand, so that's why it hasn't come off. But you could put some blue Loctite on this if you really like it, but I'm not that determined that this is my final tip, so I may be trying other things. I may go back to the stock. But right now I really like this, and it's louder. It gives it more of a pop, and I like that. And because the longer barrels tend to be more quiet than the 5-inch barrels. But when you put one of these on there, now the amount of sound that you get out of this barrel is equivalent to that you get out of a 5-inch barrel. So it's really something that I like, and maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. That's 342. .336. .359. So you can see it's jumping around a little bit, but those are pretty good numbers. So let me charge it up. Okay, charge is good. All right, let's take a couple shots. That's 372. .345. Bounces around a little bit. .360. .359. All right, I tuned it up just a little bit more after the service, and I gave it a little bit more turns after the last shots. And let's see what it is right now. It's 371. .383. So I think it should be hanging in that range now. Let's see. Yeah, that's 380.